Over the decade of the 80s, the business grew, and the Fuente brand quickly became one of the best known in the world. Meanwhile, Carlito was learning more and more about tobacco growing and blending. He was beginning to get some big ideas of his own. Then one fateful day in 1988, a visitor to the factory said something to Carlito that shook him to the very core of his being.
And I had a group of visitors visiting us, and one gentleman, a very well-known tobacconist, known worldwide, from Paris, France. After visiting our factory, he says, "My God, Carlito," says, "the quality controls, the passion, the love that you see among the cigar makers." He says, "It's unique. I have not witnessed this anywhere in the world." He said, "But you're never going to be great. You're never going to be the best, because you don't produce a cigar. You assemble a cigar."
And that got to my son. And that's what all started, that he thought about making a 100% Dominican tobacco cigar.
Carlito knew that the next step in the evolution of the Fuente brand was to create cigars, not just assemble them. What he didn't know was that, like his father before him, he was about to change the cigar business forever. The next year, in 1989, Carlito convinced his father to let him try to do what no one had been able to do before, grow wrapper tobacco in the Dominican Republic.
And when I heard they said that you cannot grow wrappers, I asked myself, why not? Why not? I said, this is it. Why not? You know what they told me? They told me you can't grow great wrappers in the Dominican Republic. You have to grow great wrappers in Cuba, because the soils are blessed in Cuba. Soils are blessed? Soil doesn't grow great tobacco alone. It's human beings that grows great tobacco.
So one day I told him, well, if you want to grow wrapper in this country, you know, everybody say it cannot be done. And I don't see why it can't be done. And you know how I feel about can't. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing you can't do if you really put your mind to it. But if you have to do it and you want to do it, there's only one way to do it. You gotta go all the way. You gotta really devote yourself more than you even have up to now.
Carlito's dream was to make something different, something never before available, an all-Dominican cigar of extraordinary quality. But could he do it?
We were doing real good. We didn't have no reason why experiment with anything else. That's why I thought my son was crazy at first when he came with the idea, because I mean, here we are growing. We just built another factory when all cigar business was going down. Everybody was complaining, everybody wanted to sell, and we were still growing. So I thought it was first crazy, but after I saw the possibility that this farm had, I knew that my son was going to come out with something that it was beyond our dreams.
In the beginning, Carlito jokingly called the undertaking Project X from Planet 9. The end result turned out to be anything but a joke. The first wrapper tobacco was grown in 1992 at their tobacco farm outside Santiago called Chateau de la Fuente. After aging for 3 years, the first all-Dominican cigar was released in November 1995. It was called the Fuente opus-x, and it was a sensation. Because of the new magazine, the Cigar Aficionado, an unprecedented boom in cigar popularity had begun. Nowhere was it more evident than in the overwhelming demand for the Fuente opus-x.
When we started this project, a lot of people smoked the cigar that Carlito would give it to. And when it got rated in Cigar Aficionado, and it did very, very well. Back in that time, there were very few cigars from the Dominican Republic that were rated as high as the Fuente opus-x was rated, because Cubans were rated very high at that time. And so the magazine really had such an influence on the demand, creating the demand for the product, because obviously of the rating, it did so well. And a gentleman came down and did a story on the farm. So these things were done prior to being released.
The Fuente opus-x was so popular with consumers that the demand quickly surpassed the supply of cigars. To this day, the production of the Fuente opus-x is limited to 750,000 cigars per year.
Expectations for this cigar are through the roof. So when someone gets a Fuente opus-x cigar and smokes it, I mean, you know, the reputation of the family is on the line, per se. So could we make more? We could probably make more. Could we make them as good as we make them now? No. We could make more, but they wouldn't be as good. Could we age them less? Yeah, but they wouldn't be as good. So we're not about making more and the bottom line, to be honest with you. We're more about just making the absolute best cigar that we can make. And this is one of the greatest cigars in the world.
The Fuente family was now producing some of the most desirable and famous cigars ever made. But success often breeds animosity. And in 1996, after decades of struggle and hard work, they were hit with one of their most trying challenges ever. The makers of a California wine called Opus-X sued the Fuente family for trademark infringement for their new cigar, the Fuente Opus-X.
I just couldn't believe it, that we were going to be sued for something that I knew that was rightfully ours, that we had built. So when I first got the letter of decease, my son came to me, and my response was, they're crazy, go for it. Whatever it takes, go for it. Because I can't believe that somebody's going to take something that's rightfully us. It was very emotional, it was very tough, but that's something that we had to do. That's something I have to do because it was rightfully ours.
We lost everything after the embargo. We lost everything to fires. We lost things in the revolution, and we lost it everything. But you know what? We haven't lost our integrity. When we were challenged, we felt our principles and our integrities were challenged. It didn't matter whether we won or lost. What really mattered is that how we walked out of it with our heads up.
I couldn't accept it. There's no way I would accept it. And I told my son, even though if we lose everything, it's whatever it takes. I mean, I remember I was born without nothing, I start again without nothing. And I never got scared about that. It was just our honor that was being defended, touched, and we had to go with it. And that's what we did. And we proved that we were right.
The Fuentes won that lawsuit, and their family honor was preserved. But then, in 1998, nature dealt them another blow. Its name was Hurricane George. It was a Category 3 hurricane, and it hit the Dominican Republic with winds of up to 130 miles an hour. The damage to Chateau de la Fuente was devastating.
I remember the day that the storm, we couldn't get in touch here, the phones or nothing. So my son and I came down at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we had to abandon the car in the highway because we couldn't cross to the farm. So we walked down, all the trees were down, everything down. And when I first came into this farm and I saw all barns, I think we had about 19 barns, tobacco barns, and there was 17 down on the floor, if I recall. So I remember I told my son, I guess this is a word from God. This is it. I mean, we've gone through so much already. And I told my son that, and my son looked at me and said, Dad, what you gone through, you mean to tell me you were ready to quit now? You must be getting old. I said, Carlito, what do you think? He said, we'll make it better. So I said, okay, we'll make it better. It was tough. I think for the first time in my life that after everything that I've gone, I thought this was just a message. This is it. But I guess my son being with me so long that he figured that with everything that I've gone through in the past, that this will not stop him, and it didn't.
Carlos Fuente came as close as he's ever been to giving up, but he and Carlito ultimately refused to surrender, and they rebuilt Chateau de la Fuente into something even grander than it had once been. Today, it is one of the most beautiful tobacco farms in the world. Over the past 10 decades, the Fuente family has had to overcome obstacle after obstacle. What they did is nothing short of astonishing. On the surface, none of it should have worked, and for an ordinary family, it wouldn't have. But the Fuente family is no ordinary family.
I think more that it was determination. We slept, ate, dreamed, played, worked, nothing but tobacco.